Tony Gaskin, that's my boy. So I'm like,
Yes. Yes, you pose a great question. I want to pose this back. I'm going to put it back up. Let's be honest. If you're Black American, do you really need marriage for kids? Like you say, you're a Black American woman, so you can speak to this topic and not get the pushback that other people who are not Black American are going to get. And I asked you, Aisha, when you talked about companionship being more important than marriage, what did I ask you? Do you want children?
and I said no.
And you
I
said
don't
no.
want kids.
Right. You said you don't want kids. And I specifically asked you that because that changes a lot of things. A lot of women are chasing a timeline because they want to have a
Yeah.
family by a certain time. That's just the truth. So a lot of men, I can tell y'all men, don't get your egos too up there thinking that women are desiring marriage because you're so perfect and you're so
Right.
and they love you so much. Most women know that a lot of men, it comes with a lot, but they want that family. So they're going to sacrifice those other things to get to that end destination. So Aisha, you asked this question: do you really need marriage for kids? Can you really expand on this and talk about what
So
you mean by that?
with y'all being from Jersey, I'm sure that I'm gonna give y'all a scenario. This is gonna be Auntie Joel, right? Everybody got that one auntie in the family who's never been married, right?
Yeah.
But she's been with Uncle Junebug for 40 something years. They live together. The income is unknown, but they make it work. They don't complain. They don't borrow or steal. They make it work, right? He might got kids from an ex-girlfriend, or they might have kids together, but they happy. They never got married, but in real life, they married. Just not by the eyes of God, but by common law marriage, it's like they made it work because they both see their flaws in each other and what they both can bring to a table, and that's it. They're not trying to chase down a timeline. Oh, I must get married by 30 years old. It is, hey, if you got your part of the rent and I got my part of rent too, and we not asking for the world, and we just chilling and bobbing, then why not? And nobody's mad at each other, why not? So some days I'm like, you know what? I think Auntie had it better than Mama, because Auntie could say at any time for Uncle Junebug to leave, and he gonna leave. You know what I'm saying? They gonna leave, and as I get older, and I've been married too before, it seems easier. There's a joke by Whoopi Goldberg, and I stand by it. And
I love Whoopi. She always talking about how she don't want to be married again, that she's good, and
she said, I love men, but at 6 p.m. you got to get out of my house.
She said,
because I need my. And I was like, that's where I'm at right now in life, where it's like, I want a man, but a husband, I think I'm okay with it.
Okay, let me ask you a question, right? Okay. For most women in this subject, you talk about your auntie and you personally, right? It's clear that y'all really, it sounds like to me that you truly do not care about marriage. You've been there, you just there, but she wasn't pressed. Like, the issue I have is with women who are deceiving themselves.
Yeah.
Telling themselves,
I was one.
They don't care about marriage because the man doesn't want to marry them.
Oh,
so that's when they go around saying, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. Oh, what does that mean? I don't need to be married. Married people, they don't even be happy. I don't need to get married. You know, I feel like some women also, they're not like, they don't feel the way you feel. They don't feel the way Whoopi feels. You know why? You all been married before. Right. So you've seen.
We know ourselves.
Right. Some of these women never been married. Low key, deep down inside, they're on Instagram looking at weddings.
Yeah.
They're looking at rings. Saving weddings. They're looking at rings. They go to the mall, they walk around, they look at rings. But they're telling themselves they don't care about marriage because the men they're with do not want to marry them.
Yeah.
And that's the issue I have in our community.
Yeah.
That's the issue I have in our community. We are all adults. Everyone do what makes you happy. Even as a Christian, I believe in marriage. I believe in, I'm here for Black power. I believe in a Black family. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to live anyone's life for them. Right? But my issue is with the women who are with men. And then either they're fronting like they don't want to get married, or every day they're bothering these men about marriage. But you're sitting down having kids with him.
Yeah.
You're sitting down having kids with him. 1 kid, 2 kid, 3 kid, 4 kid, 5 kid. And then you're like, oh, well, when you gonna buy me the ring?
There's no need for it. I
don't understand it. It's like, if you really want to be married, things happen, mistakes happen. After the 1 child, don't have no more kids with him.
Yeah.
Because the more kids you have with this man, the harder it's going to be to walk away from this man.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be a single mother, okay? We've experienced it first. I wouldn't wish, like, when I see women say, "Oh well, if I don't find a man, I'm gonna just go get a child and take care of it by myself." I want to throw up.
Yeah.
Because I would never purposely make myself a single mother.
Yeah, no,
I would never. I'd rather marry a man that's 5'7" that I'm not even crazy about, just so my child can have a father in his life. I put it on God.
Right.
I would rather marry a man I am not crazy about. I will learn to love. If I get to that age and I know danger zone is really there and I got danger, like it's really getting bad and I really need to settle down, I'd rather marry a man who is 5'7", that's just okay. I'm not crazy about him just because I want my child to have a father in his life.
No, I can understand that.
So I don't know.
And when you talk about, like I said, when you talk about really needing marriage, right? I think that, like you mentioned, the answer that some people may have is that it sounds like they're okay with where they are.
Yeah.
They're married. Like if it happens, they will probably but it's not, they don't go to sleep thinking about what the difference. Like I give example for like an average Nigerian woman, she would never be okay with that setup.
Right.
She would feel cheap. She would feel used. She would feel like the man doesn't truly respect her and value her. Even if she was in that situation, she would be managing it based on maybe age or based on
maybe he's super rich. Maybe if he's super
maybe he's super rich or something. But I know deep down inside, she wouldn't truly be happy.
But that's also because of y'all's culture. It's about family, and this is why I said, as a Black American, I kind of want to speak on the Black Americans because I know some people don't want to say it, but I'll take the beat down for what I'm about to say, right? But I just want to keep it 1,000 with this, right? If we look at the past 10, 15 years as a Black American, marriage is not even in our sight from our parents, and some of us, even our grandparents were never married. Versus other cultures like an Indian or an African or Middle Eastern, marriage is far beyond name. It's about legacy. And I have to say this, and y'all can beat me up in the chat. For the last 20 years, what legacy do a lot of Black Americans have? The last 20 years. I ain't saying about MLK and I'm saying from the 80s up until now, what legacy do we have after the crack Eric came in? What legacy do we have that we can fall back on? Because once our grandparents die, like once the elders go away, it's just us. Once Uncle Junebug and them die in the next 10 years, as a Black American, we don't have them nothing else. At least with you all being Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa, y'all got people lines. A lot of us don't have that. A lot of our lines stop at 1985.
And you think that's due to not getting married?
Pardon?
Do you think that is a result of the declining marriage rates in the Black American community?
Because yes, and I said that because at that time, and I hate to kind of borrow from the red pillars and the thinkers, but at that point, women are now making their own money, right? Section 8. Even though we hate to speak about this kind of stuff, but this stuff does play a part on why we're looking at it as, because remember now, back in the days when welfare first came around, a woman could only get an apartment if she had what? Not a man in the house.
That's what they always say. She can't.
Yeah, that's a real thing. And like even now, for you to get on certain kind of levels of like high Section 8, you cannot have a male provider in the household. Because then at that point, why are you on Section 8 then?
Right.
But do you think people? But then that argument isn't, because I read a book called "Is Marriage for White People?" Great book. I really would recommend it to like everyone. It really changed my perspective. It has stats talking about like in the 60s, marriage, Black people were married at the same rate as white people.
Yeah,
even slightly higher.
Even slightly higher. So like it's exactly to what you're saying. It's like it's like the Black community. It's like people feel like they were doing better at Martin Luther King times.
Yeah,
many aspects of life, even though we had the separate buses and the separate water fountains, and it's interesting because the HBCUs are stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Black family was stronger. People were fighting for their rights, but it almost seemed like with integration, the Black community became lax, like a little bit of lax, kind of like everything is fine, we're kumbaya, everything is, and then with the drugs and Section 8. But my issue is that like when people bring up Section 8, are we really trying to say that a woman
rather be in Section 8 and kick out a man
There's
versus
a lot of women that would. Honestly, I know a lot of them. Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds hard to believe that a woman would rather be in Section 8 and kick out a man versus them maybe just work a little harder. Both
There's a lot of women that I know. I know about 5 of them right now. I can say they left for their socials. Yeah. Because the fact that they can get free income and not have to work, or that they can make money on the table and not be taxed, they would rather have free housing. And I mean, in this kind of world, can you kind of really blame them, where rent is high, where they're saying, I will forfeit a man and a legacy for a roof over my head. That's how much the government is just taxing us.
And it also, you mentioned these women may also rather get that check depending on the type of man that they with.
Yeah.
Because you're assuming that they have a man in the house, but what is that man making? How much is that man contributing? So they may financially be better off relying on the government than that man who's not really doing much.
Yeah.
That's also the way you got to look at it. The question is, why have kids with a man that's not doing much? The children are already here, and that, like you said, everything is environment, right? Who do you want them to have kids with? If that's the men in their environment, if that's the way the men around them move, that's who they're going to end up being partnered with. That's who they're going to be dating.
Yeah,
so that's just the reality. I understand you're thinking very logically, but in the real world, you are a product of your environment. Well, you function with your everyday environment, so you may not be. You may even know that logically this doesn't make the best sense, but like, what are your other options?
Yeah. And I also feel like with that, just the financial history of where we are as Americans, it's just not making any sense, right? Because